Among Indians and Métis, there's a sort of a loose fraternity. If you haven't got it, well, they have. So all you have to do is go looking for them. I don't know a soul here outside of you people and the people at the university, but I'll bet you I won't starve in this town as long as there are any Indians or natives around.
James Patrick Brady was born on March 11, 1908 in Lac St. Vincent, Alberta. His father, James Brady Sr., was an Irish immigrant who became a Dominion land agent, postmaster, and storekeeper. His mother, Philomena Garneau, was one of the first Métis registered nurses in the area. Growing up in St. Paul de Métis, a Métis community in Alberta, Jim Brady was influenced by his roots and his community, which comprised of many of the dispersed Red River in 1885 Batoche resistance families. His grandfather, Lawrence Garneau, shared with him the stories of his involvement with Louis Riel in both the 1870 and 1885 resistances. These stories left an indelible mark on young Jim and inspired his future political battles for Métis rights. While he dedicated his life to the pursuit of the Métis cause through his teaching and politics, Brady was also a devoted family man who cared deeply for his family.
I'd like people to remember when they talk about Jim Brady is that as much as he was political and as much influence as he gave to everyone, not just in Saskatchewan but in Alberta, he's well known for his political activity in Alberta as well. And is that he was much more than just political. He was, he had so many gifts that he gave people. He was so generous with, in terms of material stuff, but he was also generous in time. He always spent a lot of time with people. If people were in trouble, they needed someone to talk to, Jim was always called.
It didn't matter what he was doing or where he was at, everything was an opportunity to teach and, help you to find new ways of thinking and seeing. And he always loved to pose questions so that you could have a good discussion. And so when I think about him, that's who I see.
In his formative years during the 1920s, Brady was tutored by various politicians, intellectuals, union supporters, and radicals, all of which formed the basis of his early education.
There were all sorts of people, immigrant people and Canadian-born people, but just landless, wandering people, wandering skilled and unskilled laborers, going around Western Canada during Depression, and he connected with them as a young man who was interested. So he connected with a lot of these roving people who were going around trying to organize the unemployed and the poor farmers and things like that. So he was introduced to Marxism at that time, which existed both within the Communist Party of Canada and the CCF. There was a whole Marxist element within the CCF. And he was exposed to that. And he took those ideas and he read. And he started to apply those ideas to Aboriginal people,
One of the people who played a key role in the development of Brady's social views was Michael Q. Q, an American professor, kept in close contact with Jim and frequently sent him letters and documents including policy frameworks, bylaws, and research materials. Q helped to instill in Jim communist and Marxist ideologies that would shape Jim Brady's work as an activist.
During the 1930s, those ideas were not that frightening because, there was common destitution. And then there was the status quo was opposed to the CCF and the Communist Party, so you had that opposition. But when you get into the 1950s, when Jim Brady came to Saskatchewan, then you're getting into the time of an organized conservatism or an organized right wing, and they censored and they purged people, and people were forced to go underground. And this is when Brady and Norris, from the 50s into the early 1960s, perhaps experienced their most frustrating opposition, especially by levels of government who were threatened by Indian and Métis people organizing.
I beg to say that the leaders of the movement have now decided on the 29th day of August, next or some 2 weeks from now, to hold a large meeting of all the people interested. I'm astounded at the size of the movement and am strongly of the opinion that it cannot be ignored. I have seen petitions covered by hundreds of signatures, and I'm enclosing herewith one showing some of the names of the persons interested and giving an idea of the matters they wish to have brought to your attention. They are asking for your attendance or someone authorized by the government at that meeting. Yours very truly, J.M. Deschênes, MLA for St. Paul.
I have warned all councillors to lay low. We are a non-political organization, a large vicious dog prepared to spring and bite, a coiled rattler ready for action. For this reason, we are a puzzle to different ones. And Jimmy, for Christ's sake, don't give our hand away. We are now where we can demand and be assured absolutely of attaining our objective, resettlements, etc. And when necessary and expedient, we must act as one man. I spoke as I have never done before, Jimmy. I am sincere, and I believe I conveyed to the people the true significance of our organization, a feather in our Métis hat. Yours always, Malcolm Norris.
He seemed to be the chair of it all, that he had more education, or I would assume he had more education, and was more knowledgeable as to the parliamentary procedures and how you go about establishing the Métis nations, if you see where I'm coming from. After some consideration, when I grew older and spoke to some of my uncles, especially my Uncle Harley from McBride, BC, he and Jim Brady were rather close. He's deceased now. He lived till he was 91. My Uncle Harley said, you know, this is one of the smartest guys I ever met, considering he had no university education and all the rest of it, pardon me. So I always took that as I must really and truly respect the abilities of Jim and what he did and what he was trying to accomplish. Because at that time, I recall him talking about script, half-breed money, way back, and we don't want to revert back to that type of thing. We want to get involved with the white people, you know what I mean? But still remain an identity. That's the first time I've heard the word identity. I didn't know what the hell it meant, but that's the first time. Anyway, that I remember, and then they all went home, team horses.
Brady could take Marxist ideas and carve out a reality of then existing conditions for Aboriginal peoples. So he could take ideas about somewhere else in the world and apply them to here, you know.
A Marxist must be interested not only in personal characteristics, but in the social, historic, and political causes which allow these characteristics to show up, develop, and have weight. Criticism of education must be framed in a broader analysis of the past and a program for the future. Administrationally, the thesis has arisen that the entire provincial educational program is an indestructible whole. Those who hold this view reject any attempts at differentiation in the Northern program and will not consider or analyze what had moved, what has changed, what new facts have been brought forth by this or that phase of the Northern educational development. This attitude, arbitrary enough for any society, is totally useless when applied to Northern conditions, where a forced march is necessary to deal with the rapid and gigantic transformations which will accompany Northern development.